How to Grow an Apple Pie by Beth Charles. Illustrated by Katie Rewse. The year Sophie was born, her parents planted 6 new apple trees in the orchard, just for her. When you're 6, you can use the apples from these trees to make your own pie, they said. Every year on her birthday, Sophie asked about her trees. No apples yet, her parents told her. You have to wait, said Mom. Won't be long now, said Dad. 1 more year. Finally, the day arrived. Today I'm 6, Sophie sang on her birthday morning. The trees are old enough, and so am I. Time to get working on my apple pie. First, the trees need pruning, said Dad. Can I help? Sophie pulled on her new work gloves. While Dad trimmed the branches, she made neat piles. How will pruning make my apples grow? Apples need sunshine, said Dad. Wait, and you'll see. Sophie waited. While the snow melted, she colored with her favorite red crayon. When the ground thawed, she made mud pies. And when the grass turned green, she practiced cartwheels. Finally, tight green buds began popping out on her trees. She waited some more as they slowly turned red, then pink, until one warm spring day, they burst into sweet-smelling white blossoms. Now will my trees have apples? First, the beekeeper must bring us hives so the bees will pollinate, said Mom. Can I help? Sophie was up early the next morning, helping direct the beekeeper as he unloaded the hives of sleepy bees. Sophie waited for the bees to wake up and do their job. The day turned cold and windy, and the bees stayed in their hives. Mom said, "Bees don't like wind and cold." Raindrops pitter-pattered against the hives, and the bees refused to come out. "Bees don't like rain either," said Dad. Sophie sighed, wondering if the bees liked any kind of days. The next morning, Sophie woke to a perfect bee-flying day. "Time to help," she said. She flitted and fluttered while the busy bees buzzed from tree to tree, picking up pollen on their furry coats and carrying it from blossom to blossom throughout the orchard. On rainy days, Sophie and the bees both stayed indoors. But on bee-flying days, Sophie zigged and zinged through the trees until the last blossom petals fell, leaving only their browning centers behind. Then the beekeeper took the bees away, and Sophie waited some more. She rode her bike while green bulges swelled behind the blossom centers. She ate popsicles as the tiny apples grew fatter with the summer rain. Now she saw that where she and Dad had pruned branches to let in the sun, the apples were beginning to turn red. One September day, Sophie took a crunchy, juicy bite of an apple. "Now it must be time to bake my pie." "Yes," said Dad, "as soon as I pick the apples." "I'm going to help." Sophie ran to get her new picking bucket and ladder. "Don't shake the branch, or apples will fall," said Dad. "Squeezing will bruise the apple, and never pull. Turn your apple upside down." Sophie wasn't sure she could remember all the apple-picking rules. But when she turned the bottom of her apple to the sky, it came off without shaking, pulling, or bruising. Sophie brought her fresh-picked apples into the kitchen. She looked from the apples to the oven. "Now I know how to grow apples, but I don't know how to bake an apple pie." "We can help," said Mom and Dad. Together they peeled and sliced the apples. They measured, mixed, and rolled the pie crust. Sophie filled the crust with apple slices, sprinkled in sugar and spices, and sealed it with a top crust. Then into the oven it went. Sophie set the timer. Then she sat down to wait. And wait. Ding! Apple pie is best when you grow it yourself. The